Hi, I'm Sophie.
Hi, I'm Paul, and we are
SP Film Viewers.
Now, before we begin talking about this finale to the Before Trilogy, there's a couple of things I want to bring up.
Okay, I feel like you're going very serious with this already.
Not particularly, but just something I just want to point out.
Okay,
basically.
go for it.
Number one, we're in March, and it's not Monster March this time.
It's true. Yeah. Only just clinged into March, but yeah, no.
As we are recording this, and
I'm happy about that.
yeah, and this episode release. So there's that. Second, I only recently learned that the director of this trilogy, Richard Linklater, he also directed School of Rock. You know, the Jack Black
Yeah.
film.
That seems really bizarre.
Doesn't it just?
It's a bit different, isn't it?
From what I can remember from seeing that as a younger... I don't... I guess I didn't realise who obviously that much into like who directed the film, other than this like Steven Spielberg or...
And he directed all three of these?
Yeah. And also, I don't know if you remember a film called Boyhood. We watched it ages ago in the early stages of the relationship.
Of our relationship?
Yeah, our relationship. Which that was about, again, like a time passage that was filmed over various years. The same guy, Ethan Hawke, who's played Jesse in this. Probably won't recall that.
No.
But
And how was I with it? Did I say I liked it?
I don't know. I think I need to revisit it, I think.
Be interested to see it just because
Yeah,
if I even
especially-
remember it, because
Yeah.
sometimes I'm a bit of a goldfish. And especially if it was the early stages, my film knowledge wasn't that great.
And lastly, somebody had written a comment or a tweet
Mm-hmm.
regarding when we said about like how I said about how things were script felt like they were kind of loose
Yeah.
in terms of how the conversation was. But this guy Sana864, he just said basically it was scripted but written in a way that feels like it's improvised, really,
Right.
which is fair, yeah. But I still take it as feeling very
Well,
free
it could
flowing.
be like, La La Land, because we only just watched that yet again yesterday, because we love it so much. And we actually introduced my mum to it, which she thought was brilliant, which I was quite taken back because sometimes she's a bit funny with films. But the film that Emma Stone was going to go to was like a script based around the actors and actresses. So it could be that they actually did an audition for these two, saw that they had chemistry between them, and then built
That
the
normally
story
works, yeah.
around
Yeah.
them, and then kind of had a bit of dialogue. Also, going back to Boiling Point, because we watched that recently again, and we watched how they made Boiling Point. So they didn't actually have full-on scripts as such. They had pointers of where certain things were meant to be said, but then they could ad-lib, and maybe that's kind of part of this as well, where if there's a script in a sense
That's what
of
I mean.
topics,
Yeah.
but how it comes across and when they say things is down to the actor and actresses.
Exactly. I feel like that's one of the strengths of what this film has to offer, or what is perceived in these films. But anyway, I digress. That's just those things I wanted to say. But in terms of what Before Midnight offers, there's 2013 film, so they're another 9 years after.
So we
Before
should be
Sunset.
due one this year then.
If they were to do a follow up when they're like 50, yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're in the 40s in this. And
so this is showing what we've yet to come.
to come. Yeah. And so we kind of find from then, after that meeting, when Jessie was like, "Oh, you're going to miss your plane," and she's singing in
The
her
waltz.
song, that, yeah, they did in fact have a relationship. They
Well,
had,
he cheated on his wife.
Yeah,
Let's be
yeah.
blunt. Let's not airy fairy it.
No.
He cheated and she seduced him and she was fine with it. And I think that's a bit of a hard thing with a woman for their morals. Just because I'd have really liked Celine not to have done that, actually, as a character. I know she's quite sex appeal and she's drawn to Jessie, but at the same time, with her being a feminist and her morals, that kind of side of thing, I'd have thought she'd have been strong-willed and gone, no, you're married, you're off the table kind of thing, respecting the other woman. And she doesn't actually do that, which I'm a bit like, oh, that seems a bit out of character for me.
I think it's really down to the fact that, like she explained to herself in For Sunset, oh, woes me about the relationships, that I can't find anyone as good as you, kind of thing. So it's kind of like, this is my only sort of chance to rekindle that, what was supposed to happen all those years ago, and it's...
Yeah, and I do think they are meant to be together. I can't say that they're not meant to be. But obviously, there is other people in this now that are involved and impacted. It's
more like how it is now after, like, what could have been. And then this is like, well, this is a matter of fact of, like, this is what happens when you are in a long-term relationship. Essentially, you have kids and you hang around with other people, essentially, to, like, in those close circles. It's not just the film that I find interesting about this, the way, especially, obviously, you still have your long takes, like this, the car journey at the beginning, and obviously walks when they're just together, but there are a lot more, like, cutaways to, like, back and forth, like a normal film would with camera movements and stuff. Like, one person's talking, then cut to the other person's reaction shot, back to them, all that kind of stuff.
And it's over a couple of days instead of just one day. It feels like it's like 2 days, possibly, because they're dropping off and they said, oh, we'll come back on the way back.
Yeah.
So it's kind of feels like 1 or 2 days because they're having the evening meal.
Yeah, they're on holiday. Yeah. So another location as well, as opposed to Paris.
Initially, it throws me off because we've got Jesse who's dropping his son off in the airport, and I'm like, oh, it's in the airport, it's European, and I can hear like a different accent, and I'm like straight away, oh, they're in Paris, and I get really excited because initially you don't know, are they, aren't they?
Yeah.
Jesse's on his own, or have they just gone on holiday somewhere? And then you're like, oh, they're in Greece, and you're like, why are they in Greece? And then it's like, is he with Celine? And then he drops his son off at the airport, and then he walks out, and Celine's at the car, and you're like, yay! And you're really happy for them, but
you see the kids in the back.
And you're like, yeah, this is how it should be.
Yeah.
But parts of this film I really enjoyed, and other parts for me were a bit like, I think it's when it wasn't Celine and Jesse.
Solely focused on them.
Yeah. So obviously, don't get me wrong, the family aspect of the 2 kids, and that was lovely, could kind of seeing like them building a family. But when they were with the authors at the table and all of that, I was a bit like, this is a bit where it shows real life, and it's kind of real.
I had to socialise with people. Oh, God.
But at the same time, I'm like, I also really just enjoy Celine and Jesse on the screen, and that's what I'm used to seeing.
Yeah.
So when there was other people involved, it was a bit like, oh, this is weird. Is this going to be all of it? Because I don't think I'm going to enjoy it as much.
Yeah, I admittedly, I did think that they were sort of going in that sort of direction, but I feel like that was kind of purposely done in a way, because it's not just about them anymore. It's also, and obviously you didn't see much of the kids, to be fair, because obviously that could have been a factor of like looking at like, okay, yeah, you've actually got little ones to look after now as well as your own lives, but it's kind of just showing it, like it's just more about getting involved with other people or hearing their perspective on relationships. And it was just kind of sweet when they were sat around the table, that I can't older lady's name, when she's talking about how her husband died, and then she kind of sees his face, or trying to remember his face in the morning fog, if you would call it, or whatever.
Yeah.
And then it kind of fades away, and it's kind of like having to rebuild that. It's like, I almost did bring tear to my eye, like that aspect of the way she was talking about it. That's really sweet.
Mm-hmm.
So some of those aspects of it, but I could sort of see, like, from that other side of the table, next to Jessie with that younger girl and the younger lad, and almost like it's almost going to be like their starting relationship that's new and shiny, and
I think that's the thing. It's the longer you're in a relationship, not that the love kind of dulls or anything like that. It grows in a different way, and it's not as new and shiny and exciting anymore.
No,
but the love and respect is more, and the companionship and the kind of comfortableness that you've got with one another, and the trust.
Yeah. Like the other couple at that table as well, they're kind of like having jabs at each other, kind of slyly, but it's like all in jest, really. It's
all in love.
Yeah,
loving.
Exactly. Yeah, it's.
Yeah, it is, and I think that's
not bickering. Yeah.
Whereas I think with Jessie and Celine, they've not really had that. They've had a couple of romantic encounters, but they've been together. I think I worked it out, depending on when Jessie moved over and everything. Probably about 10 years, it seems, because we're like 30s.
Yes.
We've been together 10 years now. And ours has been a full 10 years. So when we're 40, we'll have been together 20 years. So we'll be a lot more advanced than Jessie and Celine will have been. Because, obviously, if they'd have got dated in the 20s like we did,
Yeah.
they missed 10 years, didn't they, of that time? And I think within this film, it does show a lot of regret.
I think that's partly what it kind of boils down to, really, especially more at the end. But there's also, I think we probably said this many times before from other films, but how, as a kid, you're always wishing you would grow up just to, get out parents' house or whatever, have your own life basically. But then when you are a lot older, you kind of like wishing time would slow down a little bit just to kind of enjoy those aspects that you could do when you're more able-bodied or just.
I think that is the case because you kind of feel trapped when you're younger and you don't feel free to do whatever you want whenever you want. You have to run it past your parents, and then you only have this wonderful blip of time, like they said, from like your 20s to your 30s, where your time is your own and you can do whatever you want depending on when you have a child.
Yeah, because that's also a factor. Once you have a child, it's kind of like life is kind of on pause.
When they were saying that, it kind of made me think, do I want a child? And I know selfishly it was like, I shouldn't be thinking this, but it was true.
I know what you think. No, don't get me wrong. I think I kind of have that mentality as well, a little bit, to be fair. But it sounds kind of selfish, but
it does.
Yeah,
but at the same time, it's like you want to
before it's
so you're not
while you're
too
more
old.
able to. Yeah, exactly.
But at the same time, you want to live your life, and I think that's the bit where
But there's only so much you can do in a lifetime,
and I think that's what this film shows. Like, luckily for me, I touch wood. Relationship-wise, I don't have any regrets of a what-if moment or anything like that. And I think that's, for us, we don't have any other children involved or any other relationships. And I think that helps us kind of get past things. I think it's really hard when you've got other aspects involved of like a divorced, a stepchild.
Yeah.
This is where life gets very complicated and nitty-gritty. Yeah. And this is where Celine and Jessie are at now.
Yeah, and it's very difficult for Jessie because he's really wanting to hang out with his son and be there for all his moments in life. He's growing up, he's going to high school or the latter years of that, and he's soon be going to college, and it's like, I'm missing all this stuff. It's like, well, it is kind of your choice. That's just how life has dealt you those cards. You choose to
move and to be with Celine and have children. And the other aspect of that is like, okay, if you just move to Chicago, which sounded like an option for just Jessie to go, then he's going to regret not spending time with his two twins.
Yeah.
And yet again, he's going to be missing out on them younger years with them.
Yeah.
So he can't win. Yeah. He really can't. And obviously Celine is not willing to give up what she's got.
Her career and everything. She's really set on like putting that as a priority, and she's getting to a point with that with it within her life that she wants to achieve something. She feels like she's kind of just being like the stay-at-home mom, pigeonholed in that typical position. It's like, that's not what it's about. I'm more than that. Really,
and she's always been a feminist and wanted to be kind of showing that she can do things and be able. And I think she resents Jessie for kind of making her a bit domesticated, being like, oh, well, I don't have any time for myself anymore. And not meaning this in a horrible way, a woman does take on that nurturing position and she will feel like she has to do everything. Where a man is more capable of going, oh, well, I want a bit of me time, I'll go and take myself away. Then the woman actually has more work to do because he's doing that, if that makes sense. Whereas if you help each other out, you could get an equal balance a little bit more. So it's showing how life is hard to juggle everything and appease everything, and really, to be honest, you can't.
No, his sort of excuse as well as how, like, oh, I'm a writer, so therefore I'm doing like book tours and travelling and stuff, so I can't possibly be there all the time to be doing.
And I need time to think, and that's working and
going for an hour walks, which would lead into 2 and all that kind of stuff. It's like
while she's doing bedtime and everything like that. It shows as well the lack of time they have together to build upon their relationship. Obviously, you've been quite busy lately, and I have with work, and sometimes getting back together to actually have time together is really valuable. And we've really missed one another, which it can go 2 ways. It can make the heart grow fonder, or you can be like, well, I don't really need you.
Yeah, it's the former, not the latter.
Yeah.
For us, don't worry. Yeah.
But sadly, it's not the case for Jessie and Celine, is it?
No, not really. It's. I mean, there's the whole the main focus is really on the back end where they're just in that hotel room. I know we kind of jumped to end, but
I really enjoy the walking though to there, and that's my favorite. That to me is the film. Like,
Yeah, how the other ones have been, like I say.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, we've got time for ourselves for a moment. It's like, do you hear that? There's, a little pit patter of
Yeah.
boots and everything, all that kind of stuff.
I feel like that with Arthur, though, sometimes, and he's only a cat, and I'm like, there's not a little cat following me around, or...
The scenery in this, then the location shooting and stuff is like really like, wow, looks...
Makes you want to go to Europe, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It really does, like even Paris, or makes you want to just kind of do like a road trip or like a tour around
Europe,
Europe.
Really pretty, yeah. But this, it almost feels, like, I don't know if this is always the case, but like those Spanish countries or Greece, obviously is where this is located, it always seems like really sunny and
olives and
yeah, exactly. There was like, you see those adverts with where they got like, oh, let's the olive oil and they pour it on the food. And it's everyone's like, hey, let's have a like a big food spread
as well. And it's like, but you've just put loads of olive oil
stuffing
everywhere.
It with cheese and herbs
and
tomatoes. Yes,
but they do have a lot of salad, I guess.
Yeah,
but then have a lot of wine as well. It looked really lovely, and to be honest, like they were in a villa type place where they were staying, and to that aspect, I did wonder, who are these people? Why are they friends? Is it like a big family? Is it Celine's family, like the two old people? Initially, I didn't know if they were a couple and they were like her parents, but then, because they were still together, weren't they? So I was like jumping to that conclusion that they'd gone on holiday with friends and family. But actually, it seemed a bit strange because it was somewhat work related, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So this old author had invited them over for 6 weeks. I'm thinking, I don't think I'd want to just go to a random person's house and stay, even if, they're putting up accommodation. 6 weeks seems a bit too long. Maybe a week or two I might consider, but...
Unless it was like the 6 weeks holiday, I don't know.
I think it was, but still, I'd like some of my time doing something else, not just being with somebody who I don't know.
Yeah, but for them, I guess it's a sort of escapism from...
But Jesse wanted to go. He was like, jumping at the bit. It's like you going to see like some amazing actor or actress or animator for your career. But Celine wasn't that interested, really. She actually didn't want to go. So it shows within a relationship, you've got a bit of give and take. And I think that's important. You have to be understanding of each other's boundaries, what's important to each other. And I think we, at the moment, touch wood, we've got that nice balance. And Celine does say, you can be on the same train track. And then eventually, at some point, this is where you break up because you can get to a point of where your train tracks cross and you both want to go different directions. And that's when it's hard to kind of, how much do you give up for somebody? Because that's a lot to ask for Celine to kind of move to Chicago, uproot the kids, go away from her family. But then Jesse's done that for such a long time.
Yeah, and it's all these, I say, troubles are over in the States side, really. Mainly, obviously, his ex-wife that's causing all the grievance with that. So it's not exactly like he can like pull his son away from that, because obviously custody battles and all that kind of lawyer stuff, and it's just too heavy.
Also, to be honest, if they'd have done it better, maybe she hadn't slept with him and been the other woman. If Jesse had just left his wife and got a divorce, how would that have been
any different though?
There wouldn't have been adultery. There wouldn't have been an affair. They'd kind of say to one another, okay, we want to be together, but I'm not going to be with you until you leave your wife.
I guess, because, they're not even technically married, are they?
No.
So there isn't that aspect. No ties there, because it's his ex-wife, but they haven't even got round to...
getting married.
Yeah.
But I think that would have helped with the divorce. It'd have been a more civil divorce, because it would have been kind of not Jesse's fault.
I suppose, but I think, they... Even though they're in their 30s, acting young and free and in the moment kind of thing, they just want to just be with you, and let's just worry about that later. But then it's kind of bitten him on the ass a little bit.
And she even said, did Celine, how he handled it, it wasn't. But then apparently just think, well, actually within this, Celine blames Jesse a lot, and she always thinks she's right. But actually, it takes two to tango.
Yeah, there's a lot of back and forth with this at the end, and he's like, round of applause. The Oscar goes to you for your dramatic performance there, what you spouting about.
I do feel like they're more comfortable in kind of talking in openly to one another, and I think that's a key in a relationship. Even if you're yelling at one another, it's better than resenting somebody and building it up, and then that person doesn't know what the hell they've done wrong because you haven't spoken to them and said, well, you're pissing me off because you've done X, Y, and Z.
I mean, it wouldn't be a very entertaining or engaging film if they would just bottle up the feelings. You could just, if you just saw glancing moments of just
and also when
anger.
they're kind of getting along, you can tell they still love one another, but if they were just getting along completely and it was like, oh, this happy family and all perfect and roses,
that would be a bit boring as well.
Yeah, because that's not life.
Yeah.
Like, it's not normal.
No, especially, not saying anything for us, but like, or anybody, any relationship that might, like, oh, down the line you just get tired of each other and that's just going to happen, is it?
I hope not.
But going into it, I assumed you were thinking there's going to be something that's a bit, it's not going to be all happy clappy and everything's perfect, I presume, when you came into it. Because obviously, once again, we didn't read into anything about it. I don't want to kept it completely blank. Just go, no trailers, no blurb about what's occurred, because I want to just go into it blind.
I didn't know if they would be together or not at the beginning. So I either thought it could go two ways. It would be that they're still not together and they then eventually end up together at the end. Or that they are together and then they break up.
Yeah.
And that's how I had the two ideas in my head. It'd be that they never get together or they eventually do get together, like in the 40s. Mm-hmm. And that actually might have panned out a bit better for them, because Jesse could have had his life with his son. The regret would have been more just I wish we'd have done it sooner.
Mm-hmm. But on that, going on that, it might have been that, that's kind of predictable if it would have gone now after all this time they've finally gotten together. Whereas if that's already established at the beginning, and then it's kind of just showing a bit of like animosity throughout, because or more at the back end, because that's just, again, that's how it could well turn out to be.
You just get sick of each other. Well, we've been together 10 years so far and we haven't got sick of each other yet, so I think we're doing all right.
Well, there's no, like I said, there's a lot more weight to what they've got in terms of their aspects of life. So we're
lucky we don't have an ex-wife or anything like that.
Strange children or like that. No.
So it helps. It does help. It's hard when you have to kind of manage other people that are involved in your relationship.
Yeah. One of the other things I noticed as well, like how when they were just walking around, I said before about how the kind of camera kind of flips in this one more so than the other one, where it's kind of just slow, just following a long pan. This one, when they were walking around, they're almost, Celine more so maybe, I guess, was kind of like, oh look, look at that building. Yeah. Look at those goats.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And there's this hi doggy on the roof. But that's almost like you're not so much engaged in the conversation as much as they were from when they were young. That was just, again, just like solely focusing on them. But then as you get older, it's like, oh, look at that thing, kind of just taken away from a moment. And I might do it, or you might do it if we're on a walk sometimes, or if you're in a new place, like, oh, look at this shop, or
we do, and we end up kind of going off track. But normally it's a pointer to talk about. It's not something to like, oh, shut up, I'm sick of hearing you now that I'm pointing something else out because I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
And I think this relationship kind of goes a bit sour, which is sad in a sense. And they kind of, I don't know, it makes me a bit upset when I watched it, because it's like, it shows how love is not simple. Everyone thinks it's like this wonderful thing, and it is, but it's also really complicated and really hard work. And you have to both want to put in that hard work.
Yeah, absolutely, I think.
And I think normal chick flicks don't really show that.
No, they just show you that fluffy side at the beginning, don't they?
Yeah. And when the men are so romantic.
Yeah, I hate you too. And then they all come together at the end, and then it's like, oh, and they lived happily ever after. Yeah. Or did they? So they don't show that. So,
it kind of reminds me of this one being a bit like La La Land in the end. Because it could have gone like La La Land, where it could have been a completely just a what if, you know.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
And showing you what life they could have had.
Oh, by the way, see previous episode from way back when of our review on that.
Yeah. Do. I'm pretty sure it's a good one, and to be fair, high scored. Mm-hmm. How did you feel watching this? Did you feel a bit of a bittersweet?
Yeah, I did. It kind of, like I say at the beginning, like, okay, establishing where we were at with them, and I'm thinking, okay, long take again in the car drive, just having that conversation. Yeah. And then when it can, like I say, when it got to the, oh right, these other people here, like.
No, I was like, what are you doing here? Why are you here?
Yeah, why are you getting involved? Move on. Yeah. I really did thinking of it like obviously a reflection of what we've seen, like I did appreciate it, but I was noticing a lot more how the camera cuts were and everything. I think that was the most thing I've noticed particularly, and it was sort of, obviously I think it was more obviously when you just solely focused on them just walking and having those kind of conversations they're having, but not so much this time. Really solely focused on like what they were talking about, if that makes sense.
It didn't feel as important. Like, I know that sounds really stupid,
yeah.
But when the first film, they were really passionate, and it does show you how you grow and you become cynical and old. And initially, when you're young, you're so full of life, and everything just seems amazing, and you want to fix everything and fix the world.
Mm-hmm.
And even Celine, by the end of it, is getting sick and tired of trying to do good, and for someone else to just kind of push it back and not want to be involved in it within work. And I think she's getting to a point where she's tired and sick of trying.
Yeah.
And I think you do get to that point with an age where you're like, I don't really want to do this anymore. Because you value things differently when you're older. You value your time.
Yeah.
And your family. But I think this one, it could be a film on its own, to be fair. You wouldn't need the first two.
I think for a bit of background context, you might do.
I feel like 1 and 3 could be on their own, though. You could watch them and it wouldn't truly matter. Because they do give you the background of how Celine and Jesse met still.
Yeah, I guess it does, yeah. They'll kind of touch upon that,
yeah.
really, and it's kind of like taking bits from that.
But the second one, you'd need the first.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And you'd kind of need it for the third, possibly.
Well,
so the middle one, you'd
missing piece. But collectively, I think they all kind of interlink quite well.
Yeah.
One thing I know, I said from the first film, I wondered if they had a kid, if the name Elizabeth would come into play. But was it Nina and Ella? I was like, kind of like Elizabeth. I don't know.
Clutching at straws
a
little bit.
But I wish that was kind of like confirmed that for me, but
I feel like,
but I wasn't expecting twins.
No, I
don't think they were, to be honest.
I did like the fact, and they looked literally like mini Celines, basically, didn't they?
That sort of like wavy
blonde hair, and French. More French.
Yeah.
And I feel like Jesse has actually put more of his life on hold for her and put her first, and I think Celine doesn't appreciate that much within this, because he did move to Paris, he got a divorce. Celine didn't really have to do much apart from have him over here.
Right, I see what you mean.
He's had to lose a lot more than she has had to.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong, it does say that she does kind of move to New York with him for 2 years. And then they end up moving back to Paris.
I don't know how people can just do that. How easy is that? And, because like ties with, like, say you have a house and
or a
stuff,
job.
And those kind of, I don't know. It can't just be like, oh, well, I'm just going to pick up and leave now. Just like, I don't know if you in Sims where you can just do like doing an airport and you just like, don't, whoop, upheaval, just plop your house there.
Depends on the jobs and situations like that. Like if Jesse's already got work and Celine wasn't working, she could maybe get some work over there. But to be honest, if I had a choice of living in Paris or the US, I'd probably go to Paris.
Really?
Yeah. I feel like raising your child there would be a bit nicer. At least they wouldn't be able to get hold of a gun.
I suppose. But again, it depends on what part of Paris, isn't it? Just like anything. Or
yeah. But I feel like
bad
more
dodgy
culture
areas.
And more.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
So shall we go to the hotel room?
Yeah.
Where, bless them, they try to get the romance back. You do see a bit of Celine topless, which you're like, really? We haven't seen all of this.
I know, that kind of threw me back. Like, obviously, like I said in the first one, it's like, oh, it's kind of just implied. Whereas this one goes full thing. I guess, like, get steaminess of the relationship going because it's not right there anymore.
But I just thought it was a bit strange because, like, now she's meant to be 40 and you see her naked and it's like...
Well, I mean...
Paul, I'm not complaining.
I'm not complaining.
But what I thought was strange with that scene was Jesse never had his top off.
You feel like you're missing out there?
No, but like in a relationship, that connection to skin, like why is she having to have her top off and get cold And he's still wearing his clothes. I don't get it.
Because they hadn't gotten down to it yet, and then the phone call interrupted.
I will say Celine did seem a bit controlling in that aspect, and he wanted to speak to his son then, and she didn't let him, and that was a bit like...
Yeah. I don't know, also, like, it was a long while before she decided to fix up her dress as well on that, because she a long time just sat, like, topless. She also took her pants off as well, but...
Yeah.
As if, like, right, let's get down to it now after that. But Jesse's, no, hang on a minute. So to talk about this call that you just screened for me. So,
and I think Jessie just feels like she's just in control and taking over, and I think that's where he gets a bit resented and bottled up again. And sadly, it seems to be that they were going to have a nice romantic night, and it does not turn out that way. They end up arguing the entire time in the hotel room.
It seemed like a nice gesture that the friends have done for them. Like, it's like, look, please use the room.
We'll take care of your children. We'll let you have a bit of downtime.
Yeah, like as if they needed it, kind of thing. Like, here's some wine. Here's a couples massage. Like, what you kind of implying there. Like, we need to just relax.
Yeah.
a bit more, or is it just a nice gesture? Who knows? But because they might not know what's going on behind the scenes really with that. But yeah, so it all kind of heats up in that moment. And like, there's one point where like Jesse's on the bed in the other room and Celine's on the sofa, and they're really distant now from one another and just slanging match basically.
And I don't know who I side with either. Like,
are you not Team Celine on this one?
I know. I kind of am, but at the same time, I understand where Jesse's coming from, and he's put a lot of his life on hold. I do appreciate Jesse in that aspect, but then Celine, she does do a lot for her kids, but also I feel like Celine's character within this, she's become more bitter than I anticipated.
Age does weird, doesn't it?
Yeah, which she wasn't like that. Jesse's always been like that from day one, so you can't really expect anything.
Typical American.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a guy, so you can't expect anything less. But Celine, she was more inspired and driven and kind of saw the world a little bit more fluffier, I guess. And then married life and kids got her down.
Realised what it had to offer when it wasn't all fairy tales and such, yeah. I love the fact, like, when they have, like when she kind of storms out, Jessie face palms on the sofa, but then she like, immediately comes back in and thinking, oh, okay, that was just a little spat, and then they just, like, all right, sit back on the couch and pour the wine and everything. They don't even touch the wine after that. Like, another thing gets regurgitated with the conversation, and then, like, another argument. And what's that line about where he says about this?
Let me just get it. So I think she was kind of complaining she'd never had time for herself or anything like that. And Jessie said, Jessie fucked up his whole life because she sang a song.
Yeah, so basically the end of the second film that led into the third film. And so, like, that part, that whole, like, fade out into black at the end of second film. It's like, okay, and then it brings into, that's how this third in the trilogy came about, and therefore this is their life. And
I think that really hurts Celine, because it's like, you asked for the song.
I know, exactly.
It wasn't me. You were following me home. You wouldn't go. I kept on going, you need to go to the airport. You need to be going. Yeah. And he wouldn't. And he was like, oh, I'm at your apartment now.
Can't you take a hint?
Yeah, your guitar's up there. You're going to sing me a song. And she did. And he was asking for it.
In more ways than one.
Yeah. And then he blamed her for everything. And it was like...
Yeah, you can't pin that on.
No, it's not fair. And
that's 10 years of life just on that one moment, yeah.
But she then says that she doesn't love him anymore.
But did you at that point, did you believe that was like, right, that's it, the relationship's over, or were you just thinking that's like I hate you and just like storm off, but then come back to him and like go, oh, I'm sorry, after the fact? Did you think that was gonna?
I think she doesn't love him as much as she used to. I think that's implied, and I think the love and the romance that they had isn't as strong as it was. I think it's hard to say that she doesn't completely not love him, because how can you not love somebody who you've loved for 10 years? There's still going to be some love there, and I think she does care for him.
Well, I mean, there's times that we would argue, or like just get cross and annoyed at one another, but we still love each other. We're not like, right, that's it.
No,
this is over. We're done with each other.
It just takes a bit of time to build it back up to where you are, like, within that situation, I think.
Yeah.
And I think that's where they're at, where they've had a tiff. They need to rebuild their foundation a little bit.
Yeah, because Jessie goes back out to the was it on the waterfront,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like be a little jokey about the situation, like trying to be sweet and endearing with it. And she's kind of like, I'm not having any of this kind of.
But she just go, we are not one of your stories, Jessie.
Yeah.
We're not, we're not in a story. This is real life.
Yeah.
Stop trying to
Be
pretend.
the whole time travel aspect of
Yeah.
it, and like what's that all about? Kind of things like this. Don't be a child.
Trying to woo her, and she's just like not in for it.
Yeah, and I guess it's kind of implied with the sunset, and like, oh, they're watching it, and it's like it's going, and it's gone.
There is one line just before we do go to scores that I've just seen on my notes, which did make me chuckle. That men still believe in magic because there's little fairies that just come in and pick your socks up and put the washing in, magically make your tea. The children are in bed and this all happens and the man does nothing. So he just believes in magic because it's just like, oh, wow, that just happened for me. And I just thought that was hilarious the way she said it. And I did think, yeah, lots of women probably chunter like about a man that way because they are so laid back compared to a woman.
Yeah, but I like to think I do try and help out.
You do.
Because I don't like that sort of level of animosity. I know I can get wrapped up in things sometimes, but I try and like, okay, you clearly need some assistance here. I'm gonna make your life a little bit easier, even if it's just a small thing like hoovering or whatever, and it's like one less thing for you to tick off your list to do, and it's just like I don't mind doing that aspect, but
I think it's more like pointers though sometimes.
Yeah, I don't feel like I should have to be like, Paul, can you please do this? I've asked you about 3 times to take the bin out, or...
Yeah, we're not that kind of relationship, are we? Like, I'd never natter you for that. It'd be like, well, if you're not going to take it out, I'm just going to take it out.
Like, make a scene of, like, I'll do it then.
But it's like, to be fair, you know me, I'd just do it because I want it done.
No.
I won't even yell at you. It'd be just like, okay.
Yeah.
I'd rather, instead of asking you 3 times, it'd been quicker for you to just take the bin out.
Right, do it yourself. Yeah.
But luckily, we're quite good in that sense, actually. Might be different when we have a child, I don't know. So, are we going to scores? And since neither of us have seen this before, you go first. And are you doing a score for this film and then a score collectively?
What we'll do is we'll do each our scores and then do an overall one. But before I do go into my score, though, what I noticed, and people, you can Google this on Google Images or whatever, obviously, we'll talk about that waterfront scene. I don't know how or who put that post together. There's one of them of this Before Midnight. I showed you, didn't I, this, like, that scene where they're kind of just like having, as if like they're having dinner or something on the thing. And it looks like someone has literally just photoshopped and plonked Celine and Jesse at a table on a cliff face overlooking the sea, and it looks so out of place.
And there's not even that scene in the film.
Yeah.
Like, we tried to see whereabouts was this taken.
So I was at the end, back end, just when it was wrapping up, it's like, oh, yeah, that's clearly the cliffside where they were supposed to be in that poster. But
there's no cliffside there.
Yeah, it's really weird.
And I even noticed it, and obviously I did a photography degree, and so I could see it. But then I was like, kind of thinking, is that what Paul's noticing, or is it just me that thinks that?
No, that's exactly what was.
I think it's probably your.
Yeah, that's like that doesn't look right.
Yeah.
So, despite what quibbles I might have about like how wasn't so as engaged, like drawn in completely to what they had to say all the time and stuff, I think it made sense for what the story had to offer, and I did appreciate when they obviously, even with the argumentative stuff, what they had to bring, because it's kind of like a reflection on everything they've kind of gone through their lives. Even though we haven't seen absolutely everything, you kind of get the gist of how things are. And I think it's even how it kind of ends in a way that's kind of like this is just something they're just going to get past, and hopefully they kind of just move on, because it kind of seems that way as like the piano, and they're kind of just a bit laughing about everything as the camera pans out from.
It kind of makes you think, well, in 10 years' time, are they going to get a divorce? Like, if they're at this stage already, where they're at each other's throats, what would another 10 years look like?
Richard Linklater, if you're working on, or have been working on a follow-up, fourth, another 3, the following trilogy, if you're going to do that. I don't know, but
Could be 50s, 60s, and 70s.
yeah, yeah, don't think so. But so again, it's kind of like the first one's kind of like make up what you will, I guess, from what the first one was, but in a different way. So I'm going to put it at a 9 because it was enjoyable and it kind of like a suitable roundup of what the whole experience had to offer.
No, I agree. I do. I think mine's a 9 as well. I now feel like, looking at it collectively, I would want to bump up my score from the first one. I think the first one I really enjoyed. It just has that more romantic kind of vibe. It's lovely. It brings you just into this world where you're just captured and you're drawn in and you're fully focused. I think the third, the other people kind of spoil it. Like you said, it does make it a little bit like but it's realistic. It's life.
Yes.
And I think you can't really complain too much. But I did say to you, when is it just going to be Jesse and Celine on the screen? Because that's why we're here, let's be honest.
Yeah. We're interested in their story, essentially, yeah.
But the conversation and the dialogue, yet again, the relationship, even though it is a little bit bitter this time, it still just shows how normal life can be and what ups and downs you have. Nothing is just a lovely walk in the park. So for me, it's a 9, and collectively, do you want me to go first or you?
I'm going to assume it's a 10, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, well, by proxy, it's going to be that, isn't it? Yeah. So your first one, you're bumping up to 10, and the other ones are 9s, right? Yeah. So same for me. Yeah. So, but overall, the experience is a 10, and I'm glad we did it how we did it, where we kind of just went in blind. I don't know how things would have gone if we'd kind of like left it a longer time, like we intended to do. But I think it kind of has worked, and obviously like every other week has been reflecting on that.
Yeah. And
for the strength of what it has to offer, rather than just kind of cramming it all in one go, I think actually was more beneficial this time for what it...
100%. It's made you more eager to want to get to it and watch it and see, especially because they always left you on a little bit of a cliffhanger as well. You wanted to you were invested in their relationship and you wanted to see where it would go. And even now, it's a bit of a... You're still making up your own mind, and I did go, no, I didn't want this. I wanted them to be either together or not. Like, I needed to know, and I still don't 100% know. Yeah. I assume they will be. They do love one another, but they're just having a bit of
despite what Celine said, yeah. Which, again, I kind of took that as thinking it's not going to be just end on a bitter note like that after all this time where people will be emotionally crushed. But I can't imagine, actually, like, the way, obviously we've done it way after the fact, people had to have waited actually 9 years to have got the outcome of this.
That would have drove me insane.
Yeah. I feel but again, it's like, we got to revisit it now to see what...
You don't have to watch it again to kind of recap what had happened.
Yeah.
You have to watch the first 2.
Yeah. Whereas, like most other trilogies, generally will be like maybe 2 years apart. Obviously allowed for time, production and all that kind of stuff to...
Or you could just wait and kind of watch them all together like we did, which I think I appreciated. But I did really enjoy the fact that the characters aged. I know that sounds really stupid, but the fact that they did wait that length of time.
Yeah, that makes... that makes it experience a whole lot more realistic as well, rather than pretending like, oh yeah, it just happened, like with El Camino, where it's like, oh, this happened like yesterday. For things like,
no, you don't look the same.
Todd, you put on a bit of weight since last time I saw you, even though it was a flashback.
Yeah, from when you're meant to be young, but you
exactly,
look older.
Yeah. So, so I mean, the 2 characters anyway, great, fantastic. I don't think you could... I certainly couldn't envision off the top of my head anybody who would fill the roles even better, but I think Ethan Hawke is really a good, like, character actor in that sense.
I prefer Celine still. I do, even
still Team Celine.
Yeah. 100%.
You can put, as I said that before, you can put it on t-shirt, but I don't know what the opposite for Jessie would be.
Team Jessie.
No, it needs to rhyme, wouldn't it? Need to think on that.
Yeah, no one wants that t-shirt, that's why. You don't need to think about it. And that's a wrap.
That's a wrap, yeah. So glad we've covered that.
Yeah, 100%. And really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So now you can tell me what March has got in store for me, since it's not Monster March.
Yeah, it's kind of open a little bit. I haven't decided exactly what I know what I want to pick for the patrons to vote for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Didn't you say there's like a theme thing going on?
For that one.
Yeah.
There is, yes.
Okay.
But
Are we not announcing
we're
that?
not divulging it until...
So they get to find out before I do. Yeah.
Yeah, sort of.
So, swiftly on to the Patreons, eh?
Yeah. And we do actually have a new Patreon.
What? When? Who?
The Good, the Bad, and the Weird podcast.
Not the ugly.
No.
Oh.
I think based on the film The Good, the Bad, the Weird.
There
is a film called that.
We're going to lose him. Sophie, shut up.
Yes, I'm just joined. But it's Nico who's the patron on this. He's joined and he's really happy we've kind of covered the Before Trilogy, so he wanted to support us.
Oh,
so,
sweet.
Yeah, so if you look for The Good, the Bad, the Weird podcast on Instagram and Twitter, find him on there and join. I think and they do a good cover and they do all sorts of different films.
Might have to collab.
We are going. Yes, we are in the near future. We are. So,
okay.
There's that to look forward to.
Something in the pipeline.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us and welcome.
Yeah. So we also got Mark from 100 Things to Learn from Film, Ben from Film Vloggers, still on his travels.
So amazing.
Our friend Jones at Weight Loss Jonesy on Instagram, and your mother,
Mum.
Mum.
So thank you, everyone who is part of his little family. We're growing as well, which is nice.
Yep. And if you'd like to join and get a shout out and get to vote for a movie for us to watch once a month, you can do so by going to patreon.com/SP Filmviewers. And if you'd like to check out some of the other episodes, you can do so over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, and wherever else you get your podcasts from.
Yep, so definitely go and check them out. We've got quite a lot of podcasts now. In our third year, is it?
Fourth, technically, because we started in 2020.
All right.
Officially. Properly. Yeah. So, yeah.
Lockdown hobby.
Yeah.
I guess, somewhat.
Yeah.
I think it was just before lockdown we were trying, weren't we, to get started.
Yeah, we did. I think it was back into 2019, then kind of like got ourselves established in 2020. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we've come a long way.
Imagine the amount of times that we've spoken to one another. What we could have else done.
Else done.
So if you want more of us and you miss...
more of this?
Yeah, then by all means, we are on the socials, as I feel like that reminds me of Community. That's what we're watching at the moment. And what's his name? Pierce, the old man. And if you do want to follow us, we are on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, under the handle SP_filmviewers. So go and send us all your love and likes.
On there, yeah. And lastly, if you would like to leave us a 5-star review, you can do so over on Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, and wherever else they do the scoring system. Yeah, that's about long and short of it.
I feel like it's like a mic drop kind of boom, done.
So, would you say that Criterion did a good set this time?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah, I think maybe obviously not right now, but at some point too. Obviously, it's something we'll come back to with this series, but obviously, like there's the special features and.
Oh, it sounds amazing! Yeah. No, definitely
to dive into and all the supplements.
I think I remember you buying this box and me just looking at it like a.
Isn't that for most things? Someone else has dropped in that box.
Yeah. And then I read it and I think I was more entitled to watch The Big Sick, which you did pair the two against.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, reading the back, kind of like, oh, I have to invest myself in 3 movies here, whereas this is just one.
Yeah, right. You're glad you did, didn't you?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So if anyone hasn't seen it, and
please do.
Yeah, go. It's worth spending your time watching.
Yeah. Even if, admittedly, the set is, I don't know why it's so expensive, but I think it's just because it's held in high regard. I don't know.
Criterion.
Criterion.
Well, you can always just borrow Paul's,
Yeah, come round and
if you live in the UK.
I mean, you can travel from wherever you stateside.
I think it might be cheaper to buy it.
Yeah, but it is. Especially if you're in America, yeah.
Yeah. It might be.
more accessible.
Unless you're in the
Doesn't-
town, already having
Yeah.
a holiday, and then you want to come watch it, then
Yeah,
more than
yeah, yeah.
welcome.
Yeah, give us a bell. Drop us a message. Right, so with that being said, thank you very much for listening, and we will speak to you next time.
Speak to you next time.
Bye now.
Bye.
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 Bye.